Hi, it's Kathryn Porritt, and you're listening to Awaken Nation with Brad Solis.
A huge shift is taking place on planet Earth. People seem to be waking up. Tired of the way things used to be, they are creating something brand new and changing the world we live in. My name is Brad Solis, and I get to sit down with the next generation of idea makers, the disruptors, and the game changers. Everyday people, just like you and me, from all over, who are doing amazing things to Awakened Nation. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a great guest on today. Kathryn Porritt is joining me here live from Australia. The sun is going down here. The sun is coming up over there. How you doing, Kathryn?
Oh, so good. It's going to be such a great day, and I get to hang out with you, which is going to be great fun.
As you say in Australia, crikey.
I don't think I've ever said crikey, but yes,
Well,
it is a
this
good
is
Aussie term.
you might be the one thing I and you're not like this, and I had Gina Dang on as well from Australia. Australians are known for swearing. I hate to say it, but you guys, yeah, as so far I've had three guests that didn't swear at all. I've been shocked. It's part of the culture, I
Well, let's see
believe.
where we can take it today. Hey, let's see how
If
we
I
go.
can get the challenge is to get Kathryn to swear. We're gonna have
Let's
fun
make it
today.
happen.
Folks, if you're a big fan of personal branding, you're going to love today's show. Kathryn, I mean, you already had a multi-million dollar company that you sold, and
Yeah.
she elected to work with select few brands on their luxury style, their website, branding projects, and this morphed quickly into the leading agency representing iconic brands globally in their quest to not only brand as an icon, but sell luxury offers and deals as well as create iconic connections. She has become the leading expert on iconic brands globally and is highly sought after as a speaker and media personality on luxury and personal brand strategies and iconic marketing campaigns. And we're going to go into this because your iconic empire is thought provoking, it catches attention, and I want people to understand we are in the age of being a brand. So, Kathryn, welcome to Awakened Nation.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. This is going to be so much fun. So much fun. Thanks for having me, Brad.
Here's what I have to ask. How in the heck did you get involved? Let's go back in time to that first company. Let's go back in time. How did you get started in this? Because I'm a creative director, so I understand the whole branding concept, but how about
Mm.
you? How did you get started?
Yeah, really great question. I think a lot of it just stems back to having a super creative mum and a super commercial dad. And so that blend actually has really served me well in this part of my career. So my mum is actually an art teacher, and we have lots of some famous artists in my family, and then my dad and several of my family members ran businesses. So that was my background. How I ended up in personal branding was I had a company that I started when I was in my 20s that turned into one of the largest lifestyle companies in Australia. I won all the awards, were on the fastest growing company list and all of those things, and wrote the book and did all of the things. I literally had no idea what I was doing running that business. I was flying by the seat of my pants, and we were greenfielding. And I'm sure, Brad, if you and I dug down into your first venture as well, I think there's so
Yeah.
much luck and just ballsiness in just going for it.
Mhm.
I was lucky enough to sell that business, and I say lucky because there are statistics that say that only less than 10% of businesses actually end up being acquired. And I imagine a very small percentage of those acquired for the amount of money that people are really deeply seeking.
Yeah.
And so I was lucky enough to go through that process, helped another friend of mine sell his business and another, and then thought, gee, I'm getting stuck in this M&A thing, and that's not what I want to do. So that's when I took some time to think about, what do I want to do? Where is my joy? If I wanted to create a business, selfishly for me, if I want to literally decide I'm not going to spend time with my husband and my kids today, I'm going to spend time with other people. Who do I want to spend that time with, and what
Yeah.
do I want to be doing with them? And that's how I came to brand and copy and position and all of those nice things. So that's how I got here.
That's wild. You and I have something in common. I have, well, not so much my father, but my mom, my grandparents, they were very creative people.
Yeah.
My grandfather was a big band drummer during the
Oh,
1940s and 50s.
really?
Yeah, fifth generation. I'm a fifth generation drummer, dating back to
Okay.
the Civil War here in the United States. And my mom played piano and sang. And so I had that. And then my dad was the discipline guy. He was
Yeah.
a doctor of chiropractic medicine and a chemist and all this. So he gave me that balance of discipline. But I think you touched on something that I think is very, very powerful. You're a creative person. You came
Mhm.
from a creative background. And I think in
Yeah.
our heart of hearts, we can't sit still on certain things. That's number one. And number two, you took action. We do fly by the seat of our pants and learn as we
Yeah.
go. There's that old saying, I'm going to jump off the cliff and build the airplane as it's going down. And I
Yeah.
bet you're a lot like that. Am I right?
Yeah, I think you have to be if you're running a business. And I spend my time today working with hundreds of some of the most extraordinary experts. They are absolutely the best in their field, best in class, no question. And I would say that the single defining feature of all of them is that they don't go into what we would call that prison of excellence, where they're just trying to wait for everything to be perfect before they take action. I think all of us who've ever had any level of success in business have that gene that you're just talking about. They're action takers before they've got the playbook and before they, have the full master plan. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be fully developed before you take action. And I think that's got a lot to do with my success and most of the people that I've supported.
I agree with you. And those of you who are listening right now, I want you to understand we are in what Andy Warhol used to call, everybody's going to get 15 minutes of fame. And so you have to take your brand seriously, whether you're on LinkedIn or you're on YouTube or whatever you're doing, your brand is you. You're a product basically. And so I want to talk about how we break down a brand for an individual because it's easy if I look at Coca-Cola or I look at Starbucks or I look at, any brand, I can immediately when I see that logo, I have these experiences in my head. And that's really
Yeah.
what branding is all about. How do I ignite experiences in a person's head about what I do as an individual?
Mhm.
So let's start with the standard, setting the standard. And for me, I know I like to dress a certain way when I do keynote speeches. When I have a photo shoot, I set my standard. Whereas, let's say a Gary Vaynerchuk, he comes across as sort of the working class guy. Whereas
Yeah.
I try to be a little bit artsy, rock star kind of way
Mhm.
about it. So, how do you help clients like pick that lane that they're coming from, that standard when it comes to their image?
Oh, it's such a great question. So, effectively, where I sit in the world of branding for personal brands is at the luxury end of the market. So we
Right.
call it iconic, but effectively, if you look for sort of a definition of the way that we go about things, all of my clients are working at that luxury end of the market. So if I kind of break it down for you in terms of, we're in the authority economy right now. There's no
Right.
question. You are 100% right. You must do this. And particularly, I think, as AI is commoditizing, social media and, we're really in this kind of volume play, there's got to be an elevation. So
Right.
it's very, very important for experts to understand this and go for it right now. Otherwise, you can be left behind. So where we sit in the world of branding is there's kind of volume, which is that, that sort of Shein or Temu or Amazon play right at the very lower end of the market. And they're going for high volume and really low margin, and you've got to have lots of money to make that work, right? So in the world of personal brands, you are talking about volume-based brands like Gary Vaynerchuk is a great example
Right.
of that. Yeah. Then you've got the sort of middle section of the market. This is such an arbitrary way of describing this, Brad, but I just want to kind of get the the foundation there. There's the middle part of the market, which I would call the mainstream market. It can be sort of that high ticket to premium end of the market. And what those guys are doing, they're kind of like they're good brands in the market that kind of are people buy price sensitive. They're the best, at what they do in a certain price range, and they can sort of own that middle section of the market.
Right.
Then you've got the luxury end of the market, which are the real elevated leaders. They're the innovators. They're the ones that are actually market leading, doing things that are rare and different and novel that no one else in the market would do. And then generally those mainstream brands are copying them. So if you look at, for example, brands that you might understand outside of personal branding, like Chanel sits up in the luxury end of the
Right.
market. They release their couture and they're ready to wear, but in the middle section of the market, Zara copies them. That's their whole business is copy, copy, copy what's going on at the high end of the market, do it
Right.
reasonably well with high quality. And then, yeah. So that's kind of, again, an arbitrary way of describing it. Where we sit in the market with those icons, to your point, is really based on you. So if you're in the mid section of the market or the low end of the market, what brands do or what business strategists would have you do is go and look at the market, do some market research, ask the market about what it is that they want and then create it, or look at your competitors, see gaps in the market and then create it. That works at the mid section and the low end of the market. In the icon section, in the luxury end of the market, we don't do any of that. You don't look beside you, you don't look behind you because you're always innovating.
Right.
So to your point, that's the first thing that you've got to do is really get into this mindset of I am the dominant market leader in my space and I own that rare air up here. I'm going to lead and I'm going to be paid to grow. And so, in terms of brand, it actually becomes quite easy once we've got that idea in our heads that, yes, we're going to own this end of the market. Actually, what it is knowing who you are and then bringing that out in the most elevated way. So, brand just becomes this beautiful, magical world of yourself at that iconic level because you absolutely don't want smoke and mirrors at this level. People want to
Right.
see the real you and the depth and the richness of you. So for me, it's all sparkles and flowers and all, like, that's who I am. I'm ultra feminine. And that is very attractive, because I am who I am any day of the week. You see me at my son's soccer on the weekends, I'm going to look the same as I look here on this interview with you. To your point, I've got someone that I worked with a while ago is the complete antithesis of me. And he'd wear, ripped up jeans and he wore a different t-shirt every day of the week. And that was part of the fun of it, like a comedic saying or something on his t-shirt, the kind of wild professor hair. And then he would always wear these yellow sneakers. So Gucci sneakers, whatever they were, the latest yellow sneakers. But that was his personal style. And he lent into that. And that was absolutely iconic. He didn't need to be wearing Balenciaga to be able to be at the iconic level. So I think you were spot on with how to build a brand at this level.
The one thing I do understand is branding and marketing, but the hardest thing is to
Yeah.
explain it. And
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
that's the hardest thing. And
Yeah.
the best story I have is from my buddy Bruce Libman. He was in the insurance space for many years, and he finally hit a certain number
Mhm.
money wise, and he
Right.
felt like, you know what? I'm going to buy a Jaguar. So he goes into the Jaguar dealership and he's walking around for about 15 minutes and nobody waits on him. And he goes in and he kind of yells at the one of the sales guys. And the guy just looked at him without missing a beat. He goes, "Sir, this is a Jaguar dealership. We don't sell like other other places."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the key to picking your level, ladies and gentlemen, and this is why Kathryn's talking about it, is do you want sales to chase you or do you want to be chasing sales? So, in your industry, your sector, your business area, where are you standing? Where are you positioning yourself so that you create what's called magnetic marketing, where people lean in? They look to you for answers. They can't believe where you're going, who you're hanging out with, the things you're doing, simply because your brand has taken this step to this level. And that's the sweet spot. And I'll let Kathryn talk about this. I'm being a chatty Kathy, but this is the sweet spot. Am I right? Am I right on this?
100%. I mean, to me, brand is just about trust. What we're trying to do as business owners is we're trying to always facilitate a conversion of some description, right? So we want a sale of some description. And what brand allows you to do is to build trust more deeply and more richly and more easily than anything else. And I remember very clearly one of my clients said to me when I first met him, I don't know what's going on here. I don't get it. I don't know what's going on here, but I would pay you $1 million today.
Right.
And that to me was the clearest explanation of what brand does, because he's gone through, watched my webinars, looked at my website, been through my social media and turned up here. And there's consistency and there's an elevation, there's consistency in the copy, the positioning, the look, the feel, the tone, all of those things. That to me is a great brand. And you're right, it's a matter of thinking about, are you driven by, the just lots of volume and you're highly competitive and you like being at that lower end of the market? There's nothing wrong with that. Then build a business
Yeah.
at the mainstream or volume end of the market. But if you like that deep, rich, innovative, being at that pointy end of the market where you get to lead and constantly grow, then an iconic sort of luxury brand might be for you as well.
I agree with you on that. There is nothing wrong. You just have to pick your levels. Some
Yeah.
people want to do high volume. Some
Yeah.
people want to be doing every keynote possible. And then
Mhm.
there's this other level. I
Yeah.
look at my buddy Achilles Larea when he first wanted to write his first book. And for those of you listening, you might think marketing is voodoo or something, or branding is all these things. But one of the top executives for Procter and Gamble, after a 15-year career running the marketing department, he retired. And in his exit speech, he basically said, "I wish I understood marketing." And I laugh at that because people do think it's like, you're throwing something on the wall until it sticks. Part of
Yeah.
that might be true, but the reality is, and you just mentioned it, you have to do a brand breakdown.
Mhm.
And this requires that you look at the competition in a sector. What colors are they using? Where is their brand falling in these levels that we're talking about? Is it sophisticated? How are you going to enter the marketplace? How are you going to take over the marketplace? All these things take a month or two to figure out in a very concise way before you get that person to step on stage into the public eye. And I find this fascinating when we started doing this with people, because I did it for a
Mm.
long time for logo design. I
Mm.
used to design startup logos for some of these
Mm.
companies, and I'd even help them name their company. And
Yeah.
this is a science. This is a science of breaking it down. And at the same time, you have to learn how to have fun, because sometimes, and I want you to comment on this, you get a person who's super serious, they're like an accountant type, let's say. And I'm not stereotyping accountants.
No.
Don't send me DMs where you're mad at me. But maybe you get an accountant type. You don't make them change their personality. You just make them find that zone of excellence. Let's talk a little
Yeah.
bit about that, because we all get clients like they have the big dream. Let's say they
Mm.
want to write the
Mm.
book, they want to crush it, but they don't have the personality, and they take a little media training and a little work to get them to that place. Am I right?
Yeah, 100%. So we've got this down to a bit of a fine art now. So I've been doing this for almost a decade, working
Hmm.
with people who are experts and taking them to the icon level. And you're right, I've worked across, I mean, you name it, I've worked across the niche. I've worked in, people who are surgeons right up to, people who are, will connect you with aliens. Like really the spectrum is just extraordinary, but they're all unique experts. What I start with is connecting people with what they are absolutely, undeniably the best in the world at. And what that allows us to do, Brad, is once someone can really truly connect to that with absolute certainty, we can put them in a position of power and really elevate them beyond anyone else. And then they just need to continue to grow from there. So, to your point, the first part of the process is really deciding and or knowing with absolute certainty and then embodying what are you absolutely the best at in the world, and there is literally no one that can hold a candle to you in that space. So it's likely to be something that's incredibly rich and incredibly narrow. We're not going to say you're the best brain surgeon in the world. You're going to be a very specific type of brain surgeon that works with a very specific type of person, etc. So we get incredibly niche down. Once we've got certain about that, people often say that you can't teach charisma, or you can't, people are either mesmerizing and they're extroverts or they're not. I actually, here we go. This is my first chance. I call bullshit on that. Um,
She
we
swore.
found, we did
I
it. We
see
did it.
right there.
We did it. Uh, the reason I call BS on that is because to me, charisma is just certainty. It's just real deep, absolute and utter certainty. If you walk in a room and you've got, you feeling yourself, you're looking the best in the world that you can, not an actor, not an alias. We don't need any Beyonce, Sasha Fierces in my world. You just, you're walking in your absolutely elevated version of you. And with absolute and deep certainty, you know that you are the only person who can do this thing. There is not a single person on the planet with, I don't know how many people are on the planet, 8 billion people now, that there is not a single other person who can hold a candle to you in that space, and you can own that and you can clearly articulate it. That is charisma. All eyes are on you, that certainty. So it doesn't matter whether you're, you know, whether you're an accountant that, works in some space that's really niche and incredibly, vanilla, or whether you're doing something super sexy and interesting and different and creative. That to me is the essence of everything. Off the back of
Yeah.
that, we just go and pick and choose who we want to do business with. Literally, we get in control of our marketing and we get in
Yeah.
control of our sales. And then it is actually fairly easy from there.
I love it. I love what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Folks, I'm going to throw out a piece of statistical data
Mhm.
that will help you make your decision on branding yourself. And that is Forbes did a study and they found out, Forbes magazine did a study and they found out that investors will make their decision to invest in a company based on the CEO being on social media or on TV or how they present themselves. And it's as high as 40% of people will make their decision based on what they're seeing out there. So you almost have to do something, write a LinkedIn article for God's sake, get a
Yeah.
photo shoot, try to get on, talk to Kathryn here about getting on in the media. I mean, this is what you have to do now if you really want to have your company go to another level, or you personally might be a keynote speaker. All you want is more speaking gigs. You just have to decide what level you want to take this to. And I find this exciting what you're doing because I have fun with my brand. I mean, my brand,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've Googled me, but I try to make my brand fun, rugged, because I go hiking here in Vegas and silly sometimes. And then I think I am the very best podcaster in the world. And that's not my ego. that is me just trying to be better than everybody else I see out there. So I see myself in the circle with Joe Rogan and all these other
Mhm.
people. And so
Yeah.
I try to bring a quality podcast that no one else has. So that's where I feel my niche is. But let's talk about this. Have you ever had a client where it was difficult to really find their niche for them?
Not usually, Brad. And I think the problem is unlearning the mainstream, because what we're taught in the mainstream is to go as wide as possible.
Yeah.
I kind of feel, I think you and I are probably similar vintages in terms of where we've come from, and we came up in the world of Google ads and Facebook ads being brand new, and
Yeah.
almost like you could print money. Like if I'd known better in my 20s and 30s with my first business, boy, oh boy, would I have run that business differently. But the acquisition costs of customers and those sorts of things, the funnels that we created, all of that has actually made us very lazy when it
Yeah.
comes to marketing. So what I feel now is that if we go back to the classics, go right back to the classics and really think through, how did they used to run companies way back when? And what they used to do is they would used to like really think about who's that
Yeah.
ideal target, and then they would go and create
Yeah.
a connection with those people. And that, my dad graduated from university and couldn't get a job for the first, I don't know, month or two. So I ended up selling sellotape on the road to news agencies. But the way that he would do that is selecting where was there the best possibility of him selling the most sellotape, create the connection with those news agents,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, right. So it's classic marketing. So I feel like if we can get back to that as an icon now, as an authority, you're going to be in an amazing position to really elevate your brand and create something truly extraordinary. Yeah.
I agree with you on that 100%. I know I don't look it, but I am a baby boomer, and I had my first job right out of college because they came to Pittsburgh and they did a portfolio review.
Yeah.
So the company figured out that they had overextended themselves, so they laid off a bunch of us 3 months later. I had moved to New York City, packed up everything from Pennsylvania, moved, had just gotten an apartment, had this great job, and then we all get laid off. So I'm sitting
Yeah.
there. Guess how I got my next job?
How?
I
You
went to
hyper
the
target it.
I went to the New York Public Library, and back then they had booths with payphones and yellow pages. And I went in and I looked up every production company I could find, made a phone call to this graphic design firm called Salisbury and Salisbury, and I
Boom.
just called them up, cold called them, said, "Hey, I'm looking for work. I just graduated." They hired me on the spot.
Right? Yeah.
And that's,
Boom.
I think today we got to be in the hybrid space. You
Yeah.
cannot rely 100% on the internet now, because part of the reason is, I look at generational statistics. This is my wheelhouse. And
Mm,
we've found that Gen X and boomers are sandwiched
mm.
families now. So they
Yep.
have their
Yep.
parents
Mhm.
living in the same house with their kids, and their kids
Yeah.
are hitting college age. So,
Yep.
what are their buying patterns? And a lot of
Mhm.
times you'll see Gen X buys only through their PC when they're breaking down and doing analysis on who has the best deals. Whereas millennials, especially younger millennials, they do everything on their cell phone. So, how are
Mm,
you going to reach people? You got to give them
mhm.
an extraordinary experience, real
Yeah.
life, face to face, IRL, in real time, in real life experiences.
Mhm.
So they keep coming back.
Yeah.
And that,
Yeah.
statistically, they found out that people will pay more to have a great experience. Am I right
Totally
on that?
agree.
Yeah,
Oh, you're
yeah.
you're 100% right. I think going back to, I don't think I quite answered your last question either about, is there any niche that's particularly difficult, or people that I've worked with where it's difficult to find a niche? And I think that those two questions are really important.
Yeah.
There isn't really. If we unlearn the old way, so that sort of laziness of, with the funnels and the funnel hacking and the blah blah blahs that made it really easy to kind of splash everything out there and then see what sticks. I think if you do exactly what you're talking about here, if you're very clear on your niche and you're very clear on who you want to work with and you're very clear on what you're best at in the world, then you can very easily create an extraordinary business in this environment because you can elevate beyond the commoditization that you're talking about. You can be that in real life authority, expert that really sits at the very highest end of any niche. So spot on.
Yeah. I'm reminded of Judah Freelander. He is a writer for 30 Rock, and he also was on the show, but he's a comedian, and he'll always wear this baseball cap. He has thick glasses and
Yeah.
curly long hair, and he always has a baseball cap on, the greatest at whatever. Like he'll make something
Yeah.
up. I'm the greatest
Yeah.
in the world. And then his
Brilliant.
whole act is listening to somebody tell some crazy idea, and he goes, "Oh, I did that too." He just some guy said he was a cattle rancher and he had like 20,000 heads of cattle on 600 acres. And the guy goes, "Oh, yeah, I did that too, except I had one cattle on 6 acres." It's like hilarious. So I'm thinking
He
the very
sounds great.
best, yeah, the very best in the world. How do you become the very best in the world?
Yeah.
Um, I think what has started to drive people more and more, especially if you're doing things, are two things: memberships and live events.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming you do live events, and they've got to be off the charts. It's got to be fun doing those. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so we do. We run what we call the red carpet experience every once in a while, and it is incredibly fun. So what we do is it is a virtual event though, because I am in Australia and most of my clients happen to be in North America. And so I'm on a plane every 5 minutes across to the States. But when I'm not there, the way to do that is virtual. And so we thought about how do we create that same experience of walking a red carpet as an icon. So you get into the mindset of being an icon and stepping into this embodiment and then really knowing it, how you can sell at this level and own it and brand and know it and, really to your point, have your personal style reflect who you are while you're walking this red carpet. So
Right.
we've kind of created a really cool process virtually that reflects that now. And I think, we give people this great experience that gives them just a taste of what it feels like to be an icon and step into that space.
I love that. Because,
Mm.
with media training and walking and dressing,
Yeah,
this doesn't always come naturally, especially to men. I've helped a few clients where I've literally had to say, "Hey, you need to stop wearing that. It doesn't look good." And being an
yeah,
artist and a designer, I'm just like, "That's not your color." And I know
yeah,
it sounds weird, but you're talking about posing and walking correctly. I always
yeah.
come home at the end of the day, and my fiance's there, and I just kind of go like this, do the whole thing.
I love
I
it.
make her roll. She starts laughing. I go, "You want a piece of this?" Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I love what you're doing at this other level because I see this as it isn't just branding and marketing. It really is diving deeper into becoming the best version of yourself.
Yeah,
Not just for your business, but for your life as well. And those things are exciting. And the person who introduced us, by the way, I wanted to give a shout out to him, Manny
yeah,
Wolf.
yeah,
Big thanks to Manny. He represents that sort of icon driven look because when I first started hanging out with Manny, I used to give him a hard time that he looked like he was the lead character from this TV show called Beretta, and he always bought Volvos. And it was such a powerful image of him in a sweatsuit, tracksuit with a Volvo, because he's kind of a no nonsense coach. And that
right.
reflects him to the T, man. It is
Perfectly.
boom, right in your
Perfect.
face.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's that simple, folks. You don't have to get fancy
Mm-mm.
sometimes. A lot of
No.
us, in our minds, we think we have to wear the perfect suit or the lapel or whatever, and your uniform, you're going to be comfortable with it because it's an extension of you.
Yeah.
Am I correct on that? You've helped a lot of people figure out what their brand represents,
Yeah.
both in clothes, stature, walk, haircut, everything. Am I right?
Yeah, 100%. A lot of it's just about getting rid of all the ought tos, and it's all identity, Brad. You're
Yeah.
100% right. It's about really focusing in on where your joy is and where your fun is. I often say that the kind of businesses that I help people create are the most selfish businesses. And I don't mean that in the loaded way. What I mean by that is finally say yes to who you really are, truly, deeply, authentically. Like really, really get to know yourself and really, really get to say yes and strip away all the ought tos where mum told you that you shouldn't wear pink because it doesn't look good on you. Or, you went through the 90s and you had, I don't know, or the 80s and like yellow eyeshadow or whatever. Whatever it is, like strip away all the ought tos and just really who are you? Who's the deepest, most excellent version of you. Once you get to know that person, it's actually fairly easy just to say, okay, now let's have fun.
Yeah.
Let's have fun. Let's go for it.
For me, it was the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have an uncle who's actually 3 years younger than me, and
Mm.
he came to New York and he was going bald, and he insisted on doing what bald men did before him, and that
Oh, he
is
had the
just
toupee.
grow it longer.
Oh, and then
What little hair I have left, I'm just going to grow it longer. So I said, you need to get a new haircut, dude. So I took him to my barber, and he was this Israeli guy who was former Mossad or something in the military, tough as nails.
yeah.
And I take him over and I go, fix him up. And he goes, okay. And he
With
cuts it
pleasure.
all off.
Let me have it.
He cuts off the mullet, and what was left up, he started to brush it forward. And after we're done, my uncle hates me. He was so mad at me. He goes, "What did you do to my hair?" I said, "You watch when you go back to work." So he used to work at DC 101, the radio station down in Washington, DC. He goes back to work. Five women just walk right up to him and go, "Oh my God, I love your haircut."
There we go. You knew better.
So, folks, if you're a baby boomer and you're still wearing your hair like it was in 1970 with the feathers on the side, but you're going bald on top, take a moment to consider that just a new haircut can change your whole life. I mean, most people never guess I'm a baby boomer, and it starts with my hair. I don't wear it like
Yeah.
an old person. You shouldn't.
Yeah.
Find your
No.
style, man. Find it.
Absolutely. I love the idea of just leaning into everything that you are. I'm very much like you. I mean, I'm turning 50 this year. And back in the good old days,
Awesome.
like, there's been all those memes going around about the Golden Girls. They were literally my age at the
Yeah.
time and they've got the little perms and the blood. I'm like, I've got the mermaid hair. I'm doing me. Like, I'm doing me. I probably have this Demi Moore hair when I'm, 80, and I'm going to keep doing it.
Well, the one thing I notice about you, because folks, before I start the show, I get sent headshots from her assistant and bios and all this. The first thing I noticed, you're stunningly beautiful, but here's what it was that captured me. You have this childlike essence about you. I
Oh,
don't know if you know
thank you.
that. No one's probably ever told you this, but you look like you have this sense of play, like
Yeah.
you are fun, like fun to hang out with. And so when you're creating a brand, it's really an extension of you, who you are. If you're fun, you're silly. Some of my friends who really know me well, they get mad and they send me DMs when I have a serious photo of myself because they know I joke around a lot and I'm kind of a smart ass. See, I swore.
There we
And
go.
and so that essence, we see it when we look
Mhm.
at your photos or when you dress a certain way. Are you whimsical? Are you fun? Are you serious? Are you whatever? Those are part of your brand, believe it
Yeah.
or not. Some
Yeah.
look at the law firms that are fun. Look at the law firms that are serious. Those are simple ways of seeing how branding
Mm.
is done.
Yeah.
Especially here in Vegas, we have billboards for every lawyer
Oh,
in this town.
yeah.
But
Love
yeah, I love it.
Vegas.
Yeah,
Yeah, most fun town. No, I'm with you, absolutely. And your photography should reflect that.
yeah,
And I think there's no excuse for I I really hate this idea of you playing a character or having I really don't like that type. And there's a lot of branding people out there that are like, you ought to do this and you should play this character. And I think run a mile from that. There's just no excuse for it now. And it's not
yeah.
attractive. I think your friends are right to call you out if they see something that's incongruent
Yeah.
with who you are. Have fun. Yeah.
Well, here's something I did, and you're gonna laugh. I wanted new headshots, but I
Yeah.
had just moved to Vegas.
Right.
So I like to wear a nice black dress shirt, a long
Hmm.
sleeve. I have a Hugo Boss sport coat, gray, but I have a really
Yeah.
nice handkerchief that's paisley, and I wear jeans, dark jeans with dress shoes. And I was talking to my friends. I said, let's go up to the mountains and get me dressed like that on a mountaintop with Vegas in the
Fun.
background. And
Yeah,
that's
that's
exactly
great.
what we did. And they
Yeah.
didn't have any lighting equipment with them. So all the staff members had their cell phone light on. So they were
Brilliant.
lighting me with cell phone lights. And
Yeah.
we got this image of me in the desert, and it's right around 8 o'clock when the sun is setting, but Vegas's lights in the background are lighting up.
Oh, yeah.
So I think your background is important too if you're getting some
Mhm.
headshots. For me, I'm going to get more of my headshots now down on the promenade, with the wheel, the Ferris wheel in the background. And
Yeah.
I want to go over to the this place. It's the Neon Museum, where they took all
Hmm.
the iconic signs from all the hotels
Yeah.
that were torn down and they put them in this sort of graveyard and they light them
Mhm.
up at night. And that's another place I want to get some photos done. So talk to us about what do you think is fun, a fun way to show your image, especially in a headshot like that?
Yeah, I love this idea of just being a creative director in your own shoot. And again, it's a part of reflecting who you are. So if you
Mhm.
think back to what are the things that drive you, where do you feel most comfortable? Where do you feel most alive and in flow? It could be historical context, those types of things that you were just talking about. I'm a massive advocate, and I know this might be slightly controversial to say as a branding person, but I'm a massive advocate of going and getting a great photographer and doing a really big shoot,
Yeah.
getting it really beautifully creatively directed.
Yeah.
Once you've got that shoot, which is kind of your signature shoot, once that's been done, you invest heavily in that and do that really, really well, get a great stylist, all of those things. But after that, what's so beautiful about the world now is that AI allows us to then take that and turn it into all sorts of
Yeah.
amazing things, which has been happening for years with Photoshop and those sorts of things. But I love that kind of magical world
Yeah.
fantasy, fantasy play type of thing with people's photography and bringing that to life with their video and those sorts of things. So AI is just allowing us to do some
Yeah.
really cool stuff now. So
It
I
is.
think go there, do it, enjoy it, have fun.
I could see someone photographing you in a really haute couture
Hmm.
outfit, like a pantsuit or whatever, but it's on the beach and where
Yeah.
Australia has some of the most iconic beaches, and you just roll up your pants and your feet are in the water and the
Hmm.
wind is blowing your hair in one direction. Those kind of things can become
Yeah.
iconic for you. If you're a man, one of my favorite things was to get photographed on an escalator coming up from the subway in New York City, or standing
Yeah.
in front of the subway entrance, and they blur out at all the other people in the hustle bustle.
Yeah.
And I'm the only person standing still looking right at the camera. Those are powerful images for executives, for people who want to
Oh,
position
yeah.
themselves a certain way. One of the favorite places that people like to get photographed is like Grand Central Station in
Hmm.
New York City, or
Yeah.
outside standing in front of a cab, a yellow cab. That juxtaposition of power and softness of the hustle bustle of New York, and you being the only stable person standing still in the middle. These are
Yeah.
in the subconscious when you do this. And
Yeah.
I think it's also incredibly fun to get creative with this kind of stuff. And if you do
Oh.
hire a photographer, a lot of times they do have some really creative ideas for you.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
love that. How do we get a hold of
Yeah.
you, by the way? Where should we go? IconicEmpire.com? Is that where we should go?
IconicEmpire.com. Yeah, that's where we are. And if something like the red carpet experience sounds interesting as well, I'll drop the link in there. But follow me. We've got some cool things going on, and we're always talking about, what's next for personal branding. So we're pretty fun to be around, Brad, just like you are.
I would hope so. You seem fun. Crikey. I got you to say crikey.
Crikey, crikey.
I have a lot of friends from Australia and they taught me a couple of phrases and I'm just like, what? Don't come a roll prawn at me, mate. That's one of those.
Yes. I use happy as Larry all the time, and I often have my American clients go, "Who is Larry? What is that about?"
Fair suck of the sav, mate.
Yeah.
Fair dinkum. Yeah, I know those. Yeah. My
Yeah.
one friend, he's from Queensland, and his accent goes soft over the years, and then he'll go back to visit mom and dad, and bring the kids, and they're there for a month, and he comes back. I can't understand him.
Yes.
It's like, I'm like, what did you just say?
Be careful, I'm a Queenslander, so be careful.
Queenslander. Yeah, Queensland.
Queenslander.
That's
Right down the
great.
road from the Irwins.
There you go. That's
Yeah.
phenomenal. You
Yeah.
guys truly are in the outback in some of those areas. Oh my goodness. Yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah, it's a beautiful part of the world. I fully advocate for you. I mean, I visit you guys all the time. You've got to come over here too. We're pretty special
Absolutely.
over here.
Well,
Yeah.
let me know when you're in Vegas. I would love, to hang out a
Love
little bit.
that.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of
Yeah,
fun. I can show
would
you
love
around
that.
Vegas, all my favorite
Yeah.
spots. Um, I want to thank you for being on Awaken Nation. This has really been a great, fascinating conversation, and I want everybody to reach out to Kathryn because this is it. Your brand should be fun. It should be easy. It should be something that you just enjoy creating, and it's you as an extension of yourself. Am I correct on that one?
100%. It's just you, the deepest, most rich, powerful, and potent version of you. That's where all the power is. Absolutely.
Kathryn Porritt, thank you. I'm not going to let you go just yet, by the way. I have a lightning round where I ask some
Ooh,
deeper
okay.
questions, some fun
Brilliant.
questions. Um, are you drinking coffee, by the way? How do you start your day?
Coffee,
Nice.
copious amounts of coffee because I'm up
Yep.
very, very early.
There we
Yeah.
go. My first question for you is
Mm.
Is there something that you love doing that nobody knows that you do?
I think the first part of my day is probably the best part of my day. I know this is probably not what you were digging at, but that first hour of the morning, I get to myself with it's in complete silence about 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning. So I start very, very early. I'm in Australia. Most of my clients are in North America. So I've got to be up early for the meetings. I just sit there and I read the news and I have my coffee and I have a protein bar and I don't know, it's just delicious. I bloody love it. It's beautiful. Sun's coming up. Yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful part of the day.
I love that. My second question is Do you have a favorite memory that you like to revisit?
Oh, many of them actually. I think so many great memories with my parents. I'm really lucky to have had a beautiful childhood in one of the most beautiful parts of the world. So, but I think any vacation with my parents when we were growing up, they weren't over the top luxurious, but boy, we had fun and dad had fun and mum had fun and my brother and I had fun. And yeah, so any of those Fiji moments or skiing holidays, any of those moments are just really special.
That's great. My last question is If you left this earth today, what would you like to pass on to your husband and your children? What would you like to say?
Be all of who you are, all of who you are. I'm going through that at the moment I've got my daughter's 20, halfway through midwifery at university, about to go into medicine. She's sure about who she is and where she's going. And I literally just had this conversation with my son this morning and have it quite often. So he's just about to finish high school and he's just making those decisions now about, where do I want to be and who do I want to be? Don't rush it is I think the big thing, but just really get to know yourself and be sure that what you've got inside here is absolutely perfect. And you should really, really, really lean in on that and enjoy this precious moment, this precious life that we have, right? Yeah.
Wow. Great way to end the show. Kathryn Porritt, thank you for being on Awakened Nation. Thank you.
Brad, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to reach out to Kathryn. She's got amazing things you can look at on the website, and please hire her if you are thinking of taking your brand to the next level. Tune in next week. As you always know, we have another extraordinary guest here on Awakened Nation. Until then, bye-bye for now. Thank you so much for being a big part of the Awakened Nation movement. This is how you can help me and our extraordinary guests. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe and share this episode out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And let's grow this movement by word of mouth. Our success is because of you. Thank you, and see you next week.